Hi Blender fans, and welcome to Blender TC. In today's tutorial we're going to actually use some shape keys to control the glass to make many glasses. So I'm just going to scale my cube like so, press the S key in the Z direction, and I'm just going to make a little mat here, which is going to be my table mat, whatever you want to call it. And next I'm going to add in a mesh, and it's going to be a plane. I'm just going to scale up my plane, which is going to be my makeshift table, and I'm just going to rotate it in the Z by pressing R and Z. My plane, my table mat or mat, and the next thing I'm going to do is actually set up my scene. So pressing the N key will fetch up this menu, and what I can do is go into view and go into camera view, and I'm just going to drag this down to the bottom of our screen, because I'm going to have a glass sat on the top of this mat, and this is going to be the basis of our scene. I'm just going to do that because I want to lock the actual camera into view so it now can't be moved. So I'm just going to add in a quick mesh, and I'm going to add in a cylinder, and G and Z just to move my cylinder just above the ground, just about there. And what I'm going to do is press the 1 key to look from the side, look at my mat. I'll make this screen a little bit darker just to make it a bit more evident. Just fetch it down. So I've got my mat there and my glass, G and Z, just to move it down so it sits on the top of my mat like so. So I'm just going to scale down my glass, G and Z, just to move it down just so it rests on the mat. I'm just going to go into edit mode by pressing the tab key, and I'm just going to G and Z, press the Z key until the purple line appears, and just move it up. I'm going to make it a quick pint glass, and I'm just going to scale this up. I'm not changing any of the settings of things, so I'm just going to, what you've got is you've got a tab key that takes you in and out of edit mode. So in edit mode, I'm just going to pull this over just so it makes these icons smaller, and you've got point select, line select and face select. Go into line select, Control and R. We'll put a loop cut on, and we're just going to actually put a little loop up there, one at the bottom. The reason you do this is to actually stop distortion when we subdivide this just before we render it. I'm also going to actually now go on to face select. Most glasses have a rim on them, so select that line there with holding down your shift key, your alt key as well, and I'm just going to press the right mouse button and extrude along the normals, just out like so, just to make my rim. I'm just then going to E to extrude, S to scale, just to scale it in a bit, and then G and Z until the purple line appears, and I'm going to move this down to about there. And then what we're going to do is press the S key, and then I'm just going to G and Z until the purple line appears, just move it a bit further down, then scale it until it disappears. So that's the sides of our glass. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the base of the glass. As you can see, that's underneath the table and our mat. So select the table, press the H key to hide it, press the other H key to hide it. As you can see, there's not a lot of light in our scene yet, so I'm just going to quickly add in a bit of light. So add in light, and I'm just going to add in a sunlight and rotate it just so it gives me a direction. Rotate in the Z until it lights my scene better, and I think I'm just going to add in a point light underneath E and Z, just so I can see the base a bit better. As you can see, there's these little lines going down there. We can actually cure this by selecting our object, pressing the right key, and then shade smoothing. And as you can see, we've got quite a bit of distortion here, and the reason is because we haven't got any close loops. So what we're going to do is press the tab key to go into edit mode, E and S to make the base, E and S just to make another E and Z until the purple line appears, and then E and S just to scale it down slightly, E and S just to make one final. And as you can see, that makes our topology quite good. And what I'm going to do is add Control and R to put a loop cut there. And as you can see, we've got a bit of distortion there, so I'm going to Control and R to put a loop cut there. And as you can see, that's now making the distortion vanish. Same on the inside, Control and R just to move one at that side, Control and R, and one at that side. E and S to scale, E and S to scale twice. Scaling twice on this, when you actually subdivide it, will actually cut this into quads, but what it also does is it stops distortion by actually putting two in a flat plane. Putting two loops in a flat plane or circles in a flat plane actually stops the distortion that you seem to get when you're cutting out various models. So we've now got our pint glass. I'm quickly going to add in a, in fact no, I'm not going to add in a glass material, because we're going to do that at the end just before we render this, just in case we run into any problems, and sometimes it can be a bit distracting. What we're going to do next is we're going to actually press the N key to add this panel here, and what we'll do is we'll actually create some of our shape keys. Down here, because I'm in the layout map and not the modeling map, I tend to work more in the layout map because it does actually have the timeline on it, but I think Blender actually opens by default in the modeling window. So if you go into layout, what you can do in here is we can actually add in and out. It actually shows our timeline, and it also shows if we actually put any keyframes in, and that's what I'm going to do right now to our model. So what we want to do is we want to make many cups, so we need a base mesh first. So hit this upturned triangle with this selected. If we press Alt and H, that will unhide everything. Let's add some colour to some things. For our actual glass, we're going to add a glass material, so I'm going to put new, and I'm just going to principled shader. Still not very realistic, but what I'm going to do is actually select this matte here, change its colour to an actual brown, and leave the table colour just as it is for now. As you can see, there's not much distortion on there. You can't seem to see this glass at all, and the reason being is that in eevee you need to actually hit ambient occlusion, hit bloom, screen plate space reflections and refractions, and in the material itself, to actually make it appear a bit like glass, although it doesn't do it very well in eevee, what you do is go into the colour under the materials tab here, and you set this to alpha blend, and I believe it's alpha clip. Adding an HDRI at this point will make this a lot more visible, and these can be got from HDR Haven. So if I add in an environmental texture and open it where mine are, I save mine in HDR Haven, and if I say add the quarry scene to it, wait a couple of seconds, as you can see our rough glass is just about there. Shade smooth the glass. As you can see, that's pretty rubbish, but if we were to go into cycles and enable our GPU, take some time, enable GPU, we have made a quite realistic looking glass. Just going to change this to 32 in the render, just makes it a bit easier to see, and I'm just going to enable denoising in the render and in the viewport like so, just to finish off our glass. So we quickly made our glass. I'm now going to go back into eevee because it's easier to work in eevee when using shape keys. So back into eevee, as you can see that's pretty rubbish, and we've got quite a bit of distortion. we can get rid of this distortion by adding loop cuts, but I'm going to do that maybe at the end just to tidy things up. So what we're going to do is go into viewport shading like so, and now we're going to cover the shape keys that we actually featured in the animation. So what we're going to do is add a basis, hit the upturned triangle, add a shape key like so, and we're going to add in three more bases or shape keys. So you just go, there's your basic one, so that's your basic glass. It's a bit wider so we can read the and plus, and I'll call this. And what we've got key 1, so I'm going to call that glass 1. Try not to hit the wrong keys again. Press 2, add another shape key by pressing the plus. Glass 2, another shape key, glass 3. Alright, so I'm going to add 3 shape keys here. So that's going to be the first shape key. What we do is we actually select on your shape key first. What you've got is a minimum range, so you've got 0 to 1. You can set this to -10 to +10 if you wish, but of course that gives you more steps in your glasses. But what I'm going to do is actually just make this so the minimum is 0 and the maximum is 1, and take this up to 1. The reason we're taking this up to 1 is that once we run into edit mode by pressing the tab key, A to select all, and I'm just going to scale that down. Scale in the Z, and I'm just going to move that G and Z down to the base there, and that there is my shape key. If you actually 0 this, you see the pint glass reappear, and take that to 1. We can actually make it go from a pint glass to a little like thimble one. Pint glass, thimble, pint glass, thimble. Right, so that's our first glass set up. So we're going to shape key 2 or glass 2, and I'm going to create a different glass here. So first of all, what I'm going to do is actually put this up to 1 just to make my glass. Go into the edit mode by pressing the tab key, and now Control and R just to actually scale down this like so. I'm just going to make myself like a little glass. Control and R, just put 2 loop cuts by moving my mouse wheel, and I'm just going to, in fact I've done this wrong, Control Z undoes everything. What I'm going to do, Control Z, is add 2 loop cuts there, Control and R like so, and I'm just going to scale the first one down first. So what we're doing is making a shape of a glass, and then I'm just going to scale my second one down there, scale like so, and I'm going to add 2 loop cuts here, Control and R, moving my mouse wheel up to make the 2 cuts, pressing the Alt key down and left clicking, and just scale this down until we see the stem appear. Edge it out a little bit, and I'm just going to scale this down. As you can see, that's now made it too small, so what I'm going to do is actually select this inner rim, scale that down till it disappears, scale this one down, scale it down till it disappears, and selecting the edge of the glass like so. Sometimes you actually mess things up like I haven't done in this time, so you can Control Z just to undo these things. So we've got the inner loop there. What I'm going to do is grab that inner loop there, if it'll let me, grab that other inner loop there, and scale these right down like so, and I'm just going to scale the outside one. Bit tricky this, once you get used to it. G and Z, scale that loop down there, scale that down, scale it down, scale this inner loop down if I can grab hold of it, scale it down, and this other inner loop, scale it down. So I've made myself a little glass, and if we take the shape key up and down, as you can see, comes the pint glass, then turns into the wine glass, like so, which means we can actually control that shape key now as well. And the very last glass we'll do is to make a bit of a, what I call it, a fat glass. So going on to that, last glass, tab key to enter into it, scale that there, scale that there. Oh, forgot to take that up to 1, so if you forget, it doesn't matter. So we've got our glass there. Can't come out of wire mode. Control and R just to make another loop cut and just scale. So we made a different glass yet again. So we've got to take that down. You've got the first glass, which is the little shot glass. You've got the wine glass, and you've got the fat glass. So now let's make our animation. First of all, we've got frame 1. So I'm just going to press I. Well, select these. Press insert. Press I on there. Then we can I, and then I. What I'm doing there is I'm just adding a keyframe on that side, and if I select frame 250, which takes us to the end, I'm just going to insert a keyframe there by pressing I. It goes yellow. So as you can see, that appears to do nothing. But what we've got here, we've got 3 different glasses. So we're going to we'll put 1, go to frame 80, make that go up to 1. So type in 1 there, and then press I, go up to about a third over there, and I'm just going to zero that out again, change that to 1, press I and I to set a keyframe there, and lastly I'm going to go halfway between these two and zero everything out, type in 0, I'll make that a 1 to make our fat glass, press I. So as you can see, it'll go from fat glass, little shot glass, to our wine glass, and to our fat glass. So I'm not quite impressed with that wine glass, so once we get to our wine glass, I'm just going to actually go on to our wine glass, which is there, and zero this. That's better. You see there's something wrong with our keyframe. So now sit to the fat glass. So shot glass, then turn into our wine glass, then turn into our fat glass, and then back to our pint pot. Now if you actually get a frame in between this, what you can do is do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. By altering different amounts, you can make all sorts of different glasses. So if I just move that one and just move this one up here, and then go like that, and move that bigger, and press I. As you can see, I'm setting keyframes there, so we're getting all sorts of different glasses in between, and you can actually make yourself a little wine glass. So you can make all sorts of different sizes of wine glass and all sorts of different things in your animation, which of course means that you can actually make lots and lots of different glasses just from 3 different fat glass, a wine glass, and a pint glass, and you can make all these hundreds of different glasses, which you could actually put in a bar scene or anything you want. But it really shows off what the shape keys can actually do in this tutorial. If you like my tutorials, please subscribe to my channel. What we need to do now to actually make our proper animation and get things looking good is we need to actually render this in cycles. So what you do is actually select cycles, and this is where we need to actually set some things up. Right, so we've got our glass and our glass shader. The only things we haven't set up is we haven't set up the cycles. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly, what you do is go in the thing that looks a bit like a printer, and as you can see here it says output. We want this to be outputted as an FFmpeg video to actually make our animation that you saw at the start of the video. I know it's not exactly the same as, but you get the idea. Right. So select where you want to actually save it on your computer, and I've set one up here, 0 shape keys, and it's glass. So this is where I'm going to save it, and what you do is press accept, and then what you can do is actually go to the end here, give it a name, call it glass 3 because I think this is the 3rd render. Put a point on it because then it's going to actually put 0 to 200, 1 to 250 frames into 0 to 200, 1 to 250 frames. GLSS 3, so for glass 3. And what you'll do is, this is where it's going to actually save it, and it's going to save it under that name. So all we need to do now is set some of the render values up. So to make it faster for your computer, you have to experiment with this, but what you've got is you've got performers here, and you've also got, we look further down, we look under render, I think it's light paths it's actually under, yeah, light paths. If you actually look under light paths, as you can see, as we alter these, you'll see your actual, it slightly distort this picture. But what I'm going to do is actually take this down. As you can see, not much difference, not much difference, not much difference. And what you do is you actually take it down, all these down, until you actually see a major difference that you don't like, and that's where you stop. As you can see, that's absolute rubbish, so I'm just going to take it up 1, 2, 3 to number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm taking that up to the value 8 in the diffuse. In fact, let's take it down to 4 and see if there's much difference. 3. See, next to no difference. Take your diffused, do that same with the diffused until you see a major change. As you can see, no major changes, so I'm going to leave that at 1. Glossy, take this down. All these things will actually speed up your render. See, there's a major change between 0 and 1, so I'm just going to take that up to 1. And same with transparency. Take it down until you see a major change, and this all will speed up your render when you're rendering. Right. And the transparency doesn't seem to actually change it much. Let's render this out at F12 just to actually make sure that, oh, it looks quite good, that, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. In fact, it's not a good idea to leave them at 0, just take it up to 1. And transmission, I think this one's the one that's going to count or change. Still not changed yet. The lower these number is, the less light paths. Between 3 and 4, you see a major change there. Can you see this on the stem here? You get some really rubbishy distortion, and if we take it further down, I think it'll get worse and worse. Yep. So that looks like it needs to be at around 4. Right, so, yep, 4. And this, of course, will actually speed up your render when you're rendering it. And then just to finally render your animation, all you've got to do is go to render, render animation, like so, and you just hit this button to render animation. So let's have a look at this render we've done earlier. The only other thing is, as you can see, before you render this, you've got this glass, it's quite chunky, sharp edges, and it looks quite rubbish. What I'd do is add one subdivision modifier. So hit the subdivision, the spanner or wrench, add a modifier, subdivide by 1, it might be down at the bottom, subdivide surface by 1, and it just gives you a better glass. You could get an infinite number of glasses. Adding that one subdivide vision modifier won't affect your render, but what it will do is actually improve the quality. Join me next time. This is Blender TC signing off. Hope you enjoyed the actual tutorial. Don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe, or if you want to actually not miss another tutorial, hit the bell. Bye for now. This is Blender TC saying bye for now. See you later.